This is bad. Shit's bad. You thought it's bad here in the US? Over in China, every single girl, like there are all these girls in China that are trying to make it as the next big content creator, popular, like influencer in China. It is insane.
At night, you might come across, if you walk around in a Chinese city at night, you might come across something like this. Rows of people, mostly young and attractive, sitting or standing on the streets in front of rows of phones and ring lights.
Oh my god.
Singing and talking and sometimes dancing. They look like streamers, but they also look homeless. Indeed, they do gather around places where homeless people tend to be. On the sidewalks.
Yeah, this is like, so if you replace this microphone with a syringe, that would basically be San Francisco.
On bridges or under bridges. There was even a bridge that became so famous for this type of gathering that people started going there just to watch the spectacle.
Oh my God.
There was so much foot traffic under the bridge that at one point it started to look like a local festival or
it's ridiculous.
Party. You can see people dressed up impeccably while dancing in the mud, or carrying a heavy jar of water while dancing in the mud, or downright rolling in the mud, or basically doing whatever it takes to get attention.
Is that Wukong? No shot. That's a Wukong cosplay. Oh my god. Wow.
Now, if you're seeing this for the first time, you probably have a few commonly asked questions.
Yeah.
What are they doing? Why are they doing that?
Money.
Are they streaming? Are they homeless? Why are they streaming outside? Why can't they stream from home? Why are they all together like that? Why can't they just stream by themselves?
True.
Why do they seem so desperate? What's pushing them to go this far?
I know why they're desperate.
Why is this happening? Why are we here?
The problem is that there's too many hoes and not enough simps. That's the issue. There are a bunch of girls out there, but there's only so many simps that can give them money.
Now, like these streamers, too, I'm a content creator, so I feel a personal connection to their struggle.
What?
You might not be a streamer or a content creator.
I'm just saying.
And that's okay, because the lessons here are applicable across culture and geography, and can be useful regardless of your particular...
I talked to a girl that she came from China, and I talked to her a lot about this. If you think that Western streamers and these streamer girls in the West are catty, bro, like the China and Taiwan shit, that's on a whole other level. Well, I didn't even realize that. Like, it was crazy. It's ruthless in China? Yes, it is.
Now, first of all, yes, they are indeed streamers, but no, they're not homeless, or at least not usually. So why are they out there on the street in the middle of the night? Well, they come out at night because nighttime just happens to be a peak time for streaming traffic in China. Most people would have finished work at that point and are now online seeking entertainment. So nighttime naturally has the most streamed viewers, and streamers in turn get online at night to capitalize on that. Many streamers also have day jobs and would only have time to stream at night.
That's another
in terms of why they
reason,
do it on the street, though, it's mostly because it makes for engaging content. You're probably seeing TikTok dancers do this, filming their content in public, sometimes to the annoyance of other people. TikTokers can and do film their content in private spaces, but there's something interesting about the real-world chaos, the cars and the cityscape and the social pressure of other people watching that can make the content more engaging to watch. And
I think that's probably true. He's right about that.
Many streamers stream in public to capture some of that same engagement on their stream. Additionally, for some streamers, this is also an attempt to appeal to pity. The idea is that if viewers see them sitting out in the cold at 1 in the morning, they might feel empathy towards the streamers.
This is one thing that happens with people here in the US too, with streamers, is that they try to act like they don't have money or like things aren't this way. And like, this is it's not as big as it used to be, but I always thought this shit was cringe, bro. Like, if you've got people trying to, like, you're trying to make them think that they that's you, what do you mean it's like me? Didn't I show like how much money I made like yesterday? Like, what the fuck? That's not me at all. No, but it's this entire idea of like trying to be relatable, and it's just farming losers. That's what it is.
Now, I acknowledge that this looks kind of insane. In fact, when I first started researching this topic, I had to do a sanity check and contact a few people in China to make sure that they've actually seen this with their own eyes, and this is not just AI-generated footage. And unfortunately, it is real.
Wow.
In fact, you can watch the stream from these streamers right now. You need to use a Chinese streaming platform, and here's me trying to do this a few weeks ago. I just searched for street streaming and found one after just a couple of scrolls. What was shocking to me was that I was watching this at 1:40 in the afternoon Pacific time, which Would have been about 4, almost 5 o'clock in the morning in China. So this poor girl was on the street at basically 5 in the morning.
Yeah.
While it was kind of raining and streaming for the 46 people who were watching the stream. So the question is, why are they going this far? And sure, streaming outside might make for slightly better content, but compared to the comfort of streaming from home, what's pushing these streamers to go out in the cold in the middle of the night?
Well, it's also probably so they can attract, like, all you really need is 1 or 2 simps. Like, how many of you guys have seen, like, smaller female streamers that are pretty much completely supported by, like, 3 guys? I've seen this a lot. Whale simps? Yeah, 2 or 3 loaded simps, exactly.
First of all, there is a macroeconomic reason for this. After the COVID lockdown, China's economy has not rebounded as strongly as one would have hoped. The rate of unemployment is still relatively high, and even those with jobs might not necessarily be able to afford the cost of living in major cities.
Yep.
Streaming, on the other hand, has a low barrier to entry. Basically, anyone with a phone and an internet connection can do it. So naturally, streaming becomes something many Chinese people do to supplement their income. According to CCTV, there were more than 15 million professional streamers in China by the end of
150 million.
That means roughly 1 in every 100 people in China were streamers. In other words, the streaming industry has become incredibly competitive. It's therefore a necessity for streamers to go the extra mile, to stand out in a sea of people making similar content if they want to make money.
In my opinion, like, this is just the way I think about it, is that I think they go about it the wrong way. They're not thinking about it the right way. Because, like, you really want to go and make money and you want to be successful, etc. What you have to do is you have to do something different. Like, oversaturated? No, it's not oversaturated. You just go in there, you do something funny, and you're still going to come out ahead. Winners win and losers lose. You always have to keep that in mind. This entire mindset that you have to follow the crowd and follow trends and everything like that, that's what losers do.
Is just one such example. But there are other factors that exaggerates this sense of desperation in streamers and push them to work harder. One of these factors is baked directly into the mechanics of Chinese streaming platforms, and it has to do with how Chinese streamers get paid. Now, many streaming platforms in the West, like Twitch and YouTube, have ad revenue sharing programs. Once streamers are qualified and accepted into the program, even if their viewers don't pay them, the streamers can still get paid from ad revenue. Chinese streaming platforms, on the other hand, don't have ad revenue sharing, or at least not yet at this time. So streamers' income has to come from the pocket of the viewers. That usually happens in 1 or 2 ways. First,
that's why it's a bunch of pretty girls. That's the reason why. They're trying to farm 1 or 2 simps, and that's all they need.
That viewer donation. Viewers can tip the streamers directly through these virtual gifts.
Makeup,
this is one of the most common ways for street streamers
high
to
heels.
monetize. The second way is live commerce, and this is basically infomercial but on streams. Streamers would talk about the product, and there will be a button at the bottom of the screen for viewers to buy. When that happens, the streamer receives a commission from the sales.
This is the way Twitch used to be. It's like there used to always be viewers and like streamers. Like streamers would used to hide their wealth and like hide the amount of money that they made. And this is something that happened really until COVID. And I think that COVID, because it was such a multiplier on like the, I hate using this term, the influencer economy, it multiplied and it got so many people engaged that it was now impossible to hide the fact that these streamers were like multi-millionaires, right? But all the streamer incomes got leaked during COVID. Yeah, I was number 8. Remember that? That was a good day. And so, but yeah, there were a lot of people that had that happen. And so then, like, that was the disillusionment. Because do you remember how many viewers were, like, really angry and upset whenever they realized that so many of these streamers made such a tremendous amount of money? Like, that was one thing that I thought was really, really surprising, is that people got really, really upset about that.
There were memes circulating on Chinese social media that compares these street streamers to beggars. Here's one such meme, and the top here says old school beggars, and the bottom says new age beggars. Now, I can see some resemblance, but to be fair, streamers do provide some form of entertainment. A better comparison might be to street performers rather than beggars. There's another thing that sets streamers apart from beggars, and that's the fact that many street streamers are often parts of a business or company that specializes in social media content creation. These
Yeah.
companies are officially known as MCN or multi-channel network.
Yeah,
in
this
the
is a
industry.
big thing on
They're
YouTube back in
basically
the day.
streaming agencies or influencer agencies. They provide streamers with training, equipment,
Yep.
help them broker sponsor relationship, and with other logistical tasks in exchange for a cut of the streamer's revenue.
Pretty
Now,
simple.
you might wonder why any influencer would want to give
Machinima?
up
Yeah.
a portion of their revenue to join an agency. You've got a smartphone and a data plan, so just point the camera at yourself and hit record, right?
Yes.
How hard could it be? Well, there are actually a lot of things content creators need to do that has little to do with creating the content itself. For instance, I just spent a week filing my taxes. Even though my channel was monetized for less than 2 months last year and made about $200, I still had to include that business activities on my tax filing.
Of course.
Because there's apparently a difference between cash-based accounting and accrual-based accounting. And if you don't know what any of that means, I didn't either. So that's how I spent a week. Thank you for asking.
You got like
Out there.
royalties, 1099s. It's like a totally different system, and like the tax forms that you fill out are different. You're employed differently. You have to shift your taxes. Like my taxes, I think last year were like this much. It was a lot.
It sounds like a great value proposition in theory. But in practice, joining an agency, especially in China, usually means giving up on some
Yep.
degree of creative and career freedom. And depending on how ethical the agency you're working with is, you could be giving up on a lot of freedom to the point that you are trapped contractually.
It's what happens with a lot of MCNs and a lot of other networks. And this is especially true with VTubing. And it's like, at least historically true, is that you have a lot of these companies that end up basically, the people don't even realize it, but they're signing a Faustian pact, a deal with the devil. And they don't realize that, like Tfue was a victim of this with FaZe back in the day. And I think that you also had other instances of this happening also, like Nija Sanji had a lot of drama about their contracts also. And in general, people they become slaves. Yeah, and those are like two different examples. There's Gura, there's like why she rebranded to Saba and everything. Like, why is that? People aren't like, you're never really going to know, but like people kind of put two and two together and they assume that to be the case. And so, I don't want to give up like a lot of names or like say anything specifically, right? Because I don't want to get sued, to be honest. But it's fairly well known that a lot of these deals are just simply not always advantageous to the creators, and they are sometimes at the expense of the creators.
For example, you might have seen clips like this circulating on the internet. People have called them influencer factories, and these would have been operated by influencer agencies. Not all of them look this bad, though. There are some with better conditions, like this one based in Indonesia. But the business idea is
That's
the same.
the better
it's
one?
to streamline the content creation process.
Man.
From training to filming to distribution.
Oh my God, look at this. This
be
is
mass-
so dystopian.
So the content manufactured like commodities in factories. And many of these street
That's a
streaming
farm,
gatherings
bro.
are just the other side of the same coin. Now, some street streaming gatherings are formed organically from independent streamers, but we know
Yeah.
that many are organized by agencies because there are hints in the footage that reveal this. For example, here the streamers are all using the same ring lights and
Yep.
nearly identical setups. You can also sometimes see tech support staff assisting the streamers. There's even a continuous red carpet that are laid out on the ground sometimes, indicating that the team had come and set this up beforehand for their streamers as part of an organized business operation. Regardless of how these gatherings form, there is something off-putting about them. They look almost dystopian, like something out of a Black Mirror episode.
Yes, it
One of the
is.
reasons it looks so jarring is because it juxtaposes a series of polar opposites that really shouldn't belong together. For instance, it juxtaposes the appearance of wealth and fame to poverty and obscurity.
And
In
you can see that like there are some guys, but it's like a 10-to-1 ratio.
These streamers are all dressed in glamorous clothing, with beautiful makeups, in front of spotlights and cameras, as if they are celebrities. Yet in reality, they are out on the street, like homeless beggars. It also juxtaposes human connections
Yep.
and loneliness. On one side, viewers from all around the country are connecting intimately with their favorite streamers, a modern miracle.
And also
facilitated-
these girls, a lot of them use like face filters and all kinds of other shit too. Like they might look one way, but like whenever you see them on camera, it's totally different.
On the other side, everyone is alone. Most viewers
saying.
are probably in a room by themselves staring at a screen, while the streamers sit just inches apart from each other, yet never interact. Everyone is locked in the prison of
Yep.
their digital worlds, appearing to connect, yet never really do.
I think the problem really is that it's so inauthentic. Like, why would somebody watch or like get attached to this whenever they realize that it's like, you know, are you going to get attached to like, you know, the dairy cow number 943 on the farm? Probably not. And so I think a lot of these people, they go into it, and this is the other big reason why, is that my understanding is that China has like another similar problem that we have, where a lot of people have high unemployment. It's hard to get a job. And you have people even in China, and this is also true in other Asian countries, that have basically just totally given up on life because they realize that they can never gain employment in a way that's like meaningful. And so, yeah, wealth inequality is going hard, like everything like that's going super hard.
But the reality is quite the opposite. It's hyper-individualistic.
Yeah, that's what they call it.
The streamers aren't working towards any sort of collective well-being. Rather, each streamer is out for themselves, climbing over each other to take a slice from a pie that is only so large.
And you can see this too on Twitch. Like, this is one big difference between Twitch and YouTube, is that on YouTube, there are so many viewers that there's an abundance that people don't feel the need to cannibalize each other's viewers in the same way that they do on Twitch. But on Twitch, there's a lot more competitiveness because the market is more limited and discoverability is based off of popularity. So for example, like if I look at like my stream right now, where is it? If I look at it, it is beneficial for me, and I gain a passive advantage right now because we have the top stream on the entire platform. This is a big thing. And so there's a snowball effect that continues to happen. Do you see kind of what I'm saying? Chinese streamers are regional though. Twitch is global time zones. Yeah, but do you think like they're still fighting for the same simps? You realize there's only like maybe a handful of simps in China that are willing to give some random pretty girl $1,000. So they're all fighting over that same guy that wants to give a pretty girl $1,000. That's it.
The point of streaming is supposed to be genuine connection. It's a platform for streamers to show their authentic personality and uniqueness for their fans to connect with. And each streamer here appears to try to do that. They're all dressed up, enthusiastic, and entertaining. But in reality, they've lost their individuality in their very attempt to show it. The reality is that they're all doing the same things in front of the same gears. This process of mass production of content has turned content creation into a commodity. And each streamer is but one of many identical cogs in the content creation machine that...
This is the same problem that we have here in the West. There's a lot of streamers, like if you scroll down and you look for Fortnite streamers that have 70 viewers, you're going to see a lot of the same person. And it's the same thing as like ASMR streamers or anything else. Like they're all basically doing the same thing, because this is one other big issue that happens with streaming, is that because it's such a zero-sum environment, people try to copy each other and do the same thing better rather than take risks with more avant-garde content because of the nature of the fact that discoverability, popularity equals discoverability, and discoverability equals popularity. So you always are focused on farming metas, and you're always focused on doing things that are kind of already proven successes rather than anything else. Variety's where it's at. Yeah, so that's what I'm saying.
Content creation was a cool thing initially. It was a venue for creatives to share their work. And people who resonated with them could start following them. It was sort of amateur and underground, and Asian parents had yet to agree that it was a real job. And then people started noticing how much money was in it and began to flood into the industry. There was enough financial reward there for some people to be willing to go to the extreme to win. Next thing you know...
like I've had a lot of people tell me, like they see like the fact that like my stream does well and they're like, oh man, maybe I should stream too. And like I always tell people, like, if you want to go and start streaming, go ahead and try it, right? I mean, like you might as well. I mean, if you think that you can do a good job, like I thought I could do a good job and I did. And so like there are going to be other people that do that too. But it is pretty hard to do that. And I think also another big issue is that a lot of the people that are successful do things that a lot of people that want to be streamers don't want to do. Like, for example, for me, I'm live every single day. I cover topics that I think are interesting to me, but I also focus on doing things that are interesting to my audience too. I try to follow trends. I try to listen to what people are saying, and I try to be entertaining all the time. I don't just simply turn on the camera and start playing a video game. Other people do that, and that generally has a lower rate of success. So really, when you want to succeed in something, you have to exceed your competition, and you have to do something in a way that's more compelling or interesting than other people. And so he said not to follow trends 10 minutes ago. Well, and that's the thing, is that a stupid person would say that, like, oh, but I said don't follow trends, but now you're saying do follow trends. A stupid person wouldn't be able to understand that distinction, but a person who will be successful will. And so that's not really my fault, that's yours. The point that I'm making here, though, is that in a lot of these cases, these streamers do have this problem, and they have a lot of problems like this, and a lot of them don't really have the opportunity to really grow, and they also don't take the necessary actions in order to grow. They're not, like, they don't do what they need to do in order to succeed. Basically, like, what I'm saying is that if you took a streamer council of me, XQC, Soda Poppin', Kai, and Hassan, and you put the 5 of us together to evaluate what streamers are good and which streamers are bad, we would have a lot of the same opinions, because there are commonalities that exist across all markets and all types of behavior. I'm just telling you, like, that's it. Lost Man Hassan. You might not like Hassan, but it's undeniable that Hassan has built himself a large audience, and he's successful at streaming. He is. And he does a lot of the same things that I do because I see him do it. You might not notice it, but I do.
The whole endeavor became a zero-sum rat race, something that isn't so different from the traditional rat race, like working at a bad office job with an exploitative employer. So you can sit in your street cubicle and do streaming work the same way you sit in your office cubicle and do paperwork. Just a different flavor of soul sucking, but your soul is getting sucked either way. This doesn't just happen in Chinese content creation, of course. In the West, for instance, you can find courses online that teach you how to churn out basically garbage content quickly, or even in an automated fashion, so that you can extract easy and fast income, or even passive income.
That's what people try and do all the time.
And this is
like with repurposing and reposting clips and stuff like that. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's extremely, extremely common. And like what I'm saying is, like, a lot of the people that are bad streamers, the reason why isn't some sort of abstract luck reason. It's actually extremely defined and very easy to identify why someone isn't successful.
To the content creation industry either. Rat racification can and has happened to many industries. But personally, as a content creator, it is a shame for me to see the rat racification of my industry in real time and its effect on people. Since I started making content, I've made many YouTuber friends who have since quit making videos. Many of them have come to content creation with one expectation, and when that expectation wasn't met, they soon burnt out. Now, this is just a personal theory of mine.
Happens to a lot of streamers too. It's super common.
I think the rat race is a choice to some degree. I believe that it's possible to not participate in the rat race, even if the industry one is in is rat racifying in real time. In other words, just because other people in my industry are rat racing out of control doesn't necessarily mean that I have to do it too.
That's true. I think that you have a lot of streamers that exist outside of that spectrum. I think one guy who's a great example of that is Northern Lion. Like, he does follow trends to an extent, but he's not constantly trying to collab with every new streamer and do all this other new stuff. He kind of just stays in his own lane and does his own thing. And I think that if you want to build a long-term level of success, and so all of these guys, they're not necessarily inside of the rat race, but they still have their areas of, like, I wouldn't really say expertise, but they're areas of being prolific in, where, like, they very commonly make content in this way.
Career advice here, and I'm not saying what I'm doing is the only way, but just to use it as an example, I had a friend who asked me this once. He said, Louis, look at these big YouTube channels like Mr. Beast, right? They have much bigger budgets and teams of professional writers and editors. All you have is a camera and a keyboard, so how can you possibly compete?
Well, now, this is always critical. It's, again, like, it's defeatist attitude. That's a loser attitude. Losers think like that. Winners don't think like that. Losers do.
Just my take on it. I don't think I am competing with Mr. Beast. Mr. Beast makes great content, but the content he makes looks nothing like the content I make.
Yeah.
In fact, the only commonality between our content seems to be that we're both
on
breathing
YouTube. Yeah.
while filming and maybe speaking in English. I'm looking for something more specific. I'm looking to create content that falls in the intersection between what I love making, what I'm good at making, and what people like watching. And this,
and this is what a lot of people don't understand. And a lot of streamers live inside of one of these circles or two of these circles, but success exists inside of all three of them.
the idea is that you should pick an endeavor that falls in the intersection of what you love doing, what you are good at, and what people are willing to pay you for. Now, if someone is exclusively motivated by money, they'll tend to ignore what they love doing. They'll push hard on what they are good at and what they'll get paid for. And that is one way that you could get yourself into a rat race.
And you also burn out that way too. I see a lot of streamers do that, where like they constantly try to chase trends and do things in order to like get the most viewers, and then eventually it doesn't pay off for them, and then they get frustrated and stop streaming.
And hustling, that you're not getting anything intrinsic out of the experience. And that's a problem, not because of some romantic notion of this "you must do what you love" cliche.
It's bullshit.
The reason is much more practical. Exclusive outcome orientation is a problem because it's a competitive disadvantage. If you're good at something but hate it,
you're self-motivating.
Someone else who is also good at it
you're not.
but love it will outdo you. The trick is therefore to be ambitious enough to follow your passion, but never be so idealistic as to lose sight of what you're good at and what people will pay for.
He's completely
right. Now, I'm not saying this is easy. On average,
this is actually like this right here should be mandatory listening for anybody who is wanting to be a streamer. This insight is exactly this is exactly how you should think about things.
It takes a lot of time and countless trial and error, and success isn't guaranteed. For example, I'm still iterating to find my sweet spot in the intersection between these three circles regarding my own effort on YouTube. My channel hasn't made enough revenue to cover what I've spent since I quit my job, so I'm still in the red so far. And it remains to be seen whether it'll work out before I run out of savings. I am ready, though, to take my resume back to the job market if it doesn't work out. And I'd probably keep making content on the side and try again once I have enough savings. Because I remember what it was like to push myself to do only what people are paying me for when I worked as a corporate consultant for a few years. No, I'm not saying all jobs are bad, but that particular one just wasn't for me. It was a grind and created a lot of unnecessary human misery. So I think it's worth it.
There's a lot of people also that like there are days where, like, I'll be honest, there are days where I don't really want to stream, but I go live anyway because that's what I do. And I know people want to see me to go live. They want to see the content, and that's it. Like and again, there are times where I think treating content creation as a hobby is effective, and times where treating content creation as a job are effective. And too much of one and not enough of the other will create a distortion, and it will hurt your content. But you're no longer dependent on this. Why still do it? Because it's what I do. It's what I like doing. And there's a lot of reasons why. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of reasons. Like, I like doing it. I think that's number one. But there's a lot of other things besides that. Do you ever experience burnout? Yeah, sure. Sure, I'll get tired of something. I mean, I'll be honest, with all this stuff with my dad and everything, it's been really hard for me to go live recently. It has been. I've been super stressed out. I've been sleeping all day. I haven't been able to like do anything else besides that. I have been fucking like absolutely out of my mind. It's been awful, but it doesn't matter. Like, I mean, everybody has problems. Like, there are plenty of times you probably had to go to work whenever you had stress at home or in your life. Like, that's just the way it is. Like, and so the more that you give in to weakness, the more you become weak. And so the more important thing to do is to focus on being able to overcome challenges and being able to work through them. Because the more that you indulge yourself in weakness, the more you practice being weak. And so that's it.
Now, I want to acknowledge the possibility that some industries can be so toxic that the only way to compete is to rat race, and one might rarely have to switch industry to get out of it. I'm not saying that it's easy to find a sustainable and meaningful career.
I've always found that rat racing sometimes can be enjoyable in itself because it's like a competition. And if you don't enjoy any form of competition at all, you're going to have a really hard time existing in a free market. And so if that's your mindset, I would say you probably should try to reevaluate how you see things that way. Yeah, if you win, well, sometimes even when you lose, you learn why you lost. Or like, let's say you get 3rd place. Okay, well, that's not 8th place.
I'm not saying everyone will succeed at it for sure. I'm not trying to dole out baseless motivation here. As you may have noticed, a lot of the topics I cover are quite depressing. At some point, we all need to connect with reality. And reality can be unforgiving. These haunting footage of rows of street streamers is one manifestation of that stark fact. But it is precisely because the consequences of succumbing to the rat race are so dire that it is important to not give up on looking for sane and meaningful ways to navigate it. So I hope that the story of the homeless streamers did not make you jaded.
I
hope it instead serves you as a reminder to tread mindfully on your journey to find meaningful work, so that there might be a source of sanity, at least from your corner of the universe. The world seems to need that right now, so thank you for your efforts, and best of luck.
This is a really good video. I do. I think this is a very, very good video. And especially the ending of it. I mean, I think the ending of it, the beginning was very informative for like streamers in China, but like the ending definitely is like more of a content creator focused thing. He makes good strategies. Yeah, it's smart. And there's a lot of streamers too that, you know, they do things for money. You're not dependent on streaming daily. So do what's in your best interest. And that means you're competing for the top YouTube spot. Not streaming daily works for that. Well, I mean, if I want to be more popular on YouTube, the main thing that I should do is stream less. That's the truth. Like if I wanted to be more popular on YouTube, like I help people make strategies, and I help people like off stream figure out how to create outcomes that are beneficial for themselves. So what I generally do in a lot of cases is I look at basically what I do in order to solve a problem is I break down how this problem exists, why it exists, and basically what the problem is. I understand what the problem is, because if you can't understand what the problem is, you can never solve the problem. And so once I understand that, I create a system for how to address that problem on a personal basis or on a macro level, right? And so whether that is playing a video game, farming an item, streaming, or I don't know, like doing something like making a garden, you have to understand a process and then deconstruct the process and then figure out how to take advantage of that process and then look at what other people do that are successful. Like for me personally, when I first started making content, this may come as a big surprise, my big inspirations, Kripparrian, Reckful, and Athene. That's right. You would have never guessed, huh? Especially if you look at my old content. And so that's exactly what it was. And so I looked at what those guys did and I said, okay, well, they're doing that really well. I want to do that, but I'm going to do this part differently and I'm going to do this part differently, right? So my point is that if you know how to solve problems, that's what will really help you more than anything else.